when there is a great sense of doership, mind is always suffering through some sort of anxiousness, some sort of worrying, some sort of fearing due to the uncertainty of the future. So it is always preoccupied. And from that place, the topic of surrender and living in acceptance seems absolutely absurd because the mind has life by its throat, right? And it needs to at least feel like it has absolute total control. And I know because I've been there. I remember encountering the teaching of surrender and having such great resistance because all I had been practicing for the few past years before I encountered that teaching was total control of life, intention about everything, and only moving with a definite purpose, always moving towards a decided future. So when I encountered that teaching, there was such great resistance. How could I submit myself and just move like a paper boat in a really raging river, you see? However, as the willingness to practice develops, and it's not something you force, it's something that comes from within automatically. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, then you must mature through your journey, truly. So as the willingness to practice develops and you begin to practice, you start to see that previously the mind thought that if I just surrender, life is just going to fall apart, one. And two, that life is going to become really, really boring. And I'm just going to be like at the expense of all these people who are going to manipulate me and take advantage of me. I'm not going to be able to pay the bills. I'm going to go through that difficulty and this difficulty, and then I can't even do anything to get out of it. Those are all the illusions that mind paints. But as you actually begin to practice living in acceptance and surrender, you start to notice that there's a total different excitement, far greater than the excitement of living through the control of mind. You start to experience the actual colorfulness of life. And you start to notice how submitting yourself to life, you're not just at the expense of life. You're actually submitting your mind to a much greater intelligence than the mind. The intelligence which keeps the sun always rising at the exact time it needs to every single day. It keeps it keeps nature working as it must. You see, it maintains the total balance and harmony of life. It keeps your heart beating. It keeps your breath going. You're submitting to that intelligence which is far greater, which is impersonal. And as you begin to live in that intelligence, like you're sort of becoming that intelligence. You're letting go of the arrogance of being your own little intelligence, because even before, when you pretended to be this controller, you were still not in control, yet you just assumed you were, and then you suffered that assumption, the limitations that assumption imposed on you. So now that you're really becoming one with this intelligence, you start to now see how as problems arise, creatively, in a very creative manner, in the way that the mind previously could have never thought of, solutions also arise to those problems. And you begin to see that as the problems arise, the solutions arise, and you notice that, hold on, I'm not really doing anything, yet the solutions are still arising to the situations that are coming up. Things are still being taken care of. And so this places you in a whole different freedom, which places you beyond doubt, beyond worry, beyond anxiety. Because now, as I'm one with this greater intelligence, as I'm even submitting this idea of a me who can come up with solutions, now life is moving as it must. I'm always ending up exactly where I need to be. Solutions are always presenting themselves in a creative way without me being in charge. So I have no need to worry. I have no need to doubt. I have no need to fear. If you're submitting this I, then who's worrying? Who's fearing? You see? So that component itself becomes erased. And this I itself becomes weaker and weaker. The belief in this personal individual I becomes weaker and weaker. Now all your words are the words of this intelligence. Now all your actions are the actions of this intelligence. There's a quote in the book, I Am That, by Nisargadatta Maharaj. And he said, allow your being to shape your life and you won't be disappointed. You'll be pleasantly surprised. Something along those lines. And it is absolutely true, you see. So, surrender is not a position of helplessness. It is a letting go of arrogance. It is realizing that the person who claims to have this individual existence is helplessness itself. That even when it assumes itself to be in control, it is completely at the mercy of this intelligence. It only fails to recognize that. And as you become wiser, you begin to accept this fact, and then you begin to, live that fact. And as you live that fact, to your surprise, life becomes much more colorful. It's no longer a chase. It's no longer just what's happening next. It's about what's happening now. And ultimately, it is about that in which it appears, in which what is happening now appears. And so it places you in touch with a much greater reality, much greater intelligence. So if something within resists this teaching, I understand. However, it is coming into your experience, and that's a fact. So to whatever degree you can, explore it. To whatever degree you can, practice. If that resonance is there, go for it. That going for it is going to be itself that intelligence working through. Don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. Once you catch a balance of how this intelligence shapes your life and how to each problem there's a creative, unique solution offered, you'll truly place yourself beyond fear.